Okay. All right. I'm ready to
Yeah,
go.
so I did something fun today that I've never done before, and I'm simultaneously proud of myself and almost ashamed. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go with proud. I bought wine in a box.
Like a box, like a bag in the box, or
Uh-huh. Yeah, like a box of wine,
oh,
not Franzia,
oh,
but a box of wine. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, Megan and our dear listeners, I can't tell the fucking difference. It's
between
civic.
like
It's
bag in a
civic.
box and like
Between
is it
bag and a box.
is it like the black box stuff?
No, it's one that was like wine box and it had like some cute font on it, and I got caught in with like I was like, you know what? This is on sale.
Yeah, it's like 10-15 bucks for a box of wine.
Yeah, that's four fucking bottles of wine. Thank you.
That's I
That's some
mean, you're
it's
going for
efficiency is what it is. It's
exactly.
efficiency.
Exactly.
I'm a poor
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you're a baller on a budget, like you
Yeah, let's call it
just
that. Baller
it's
on a budget.
budgeting. It's budgeting, right? You
Yes.
decided like this is my budget for wine. It's
Mostly just
adulting. Okay? It's what you did was adulting. That was an
thank
adult
you.
decision.
Thank
So,
you. I'm a grown ass woman.
cheers to
Cheers.
that.
Cheers.
Uh
Back.
see, I had to add cider to my rum because I can't just drink alcohol.
No.
I
No.
It's like,
Ooh, my roommate is super excited for eggnog season.
oh, I fucking love eggnog. Are you kidding me? Are you
Told you about, have I not told you about
eggnog?
the thing that
I
happened
mean,
with
like
eggnog?
straight up eggnog, no liquor added to it, just delicious. Num 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 num. It's
You're
thick and
wrong.
it's got a slight grit to it because
Don't
of the
do
nutmeg.
no.
So creamy, thick, a little nutty.
Gross.
No, honestly, I genuinely do like thin mine out because I think it's too thick and it grosses
It
me
is
out.
too thick. And
It's like
you have to thin it out with Captain Morgan.
oh, I usually thin it out with milk and then just drink it because it's delicious.
Jesus, you and Evan are the same person. Disgusting
uh,
monsters.
I
Oh,
mean,
welcome to the holiday season.
you know, I think it's what I appreciate the most about the holiday season. I could do
Yeah.
without a lot of the holiday season.
I like green bean casserole.
That's fair. Funeral potatoes are delicious.
Funeral potatoes. If you guys don't know what funeral potatoes are, get your ass to a Mormon place
Mhm.
and then say, could somebody make me funeral potatoes? And the Mormons are like pretty acquiescent as people. And they'll be like, yeah, I'd love to make you some funeral potatoes. Nobody has to die.
Yeah, it's funny too. I've never seen them at a funeral.
I've never been to a Mormon funeral. I like my funerals saucy.
I've been to excommunicated Mormon funerals, but not actually still in it.
I say I've
funerals.
been to a Mormon funeral service, but I wasn't like invited to the
Yeah.
wake. I almost said reception. That's not what it is.
No, sometimes they're called receptions, right? Because you go
I think
to
it's more receiving.
I think reception can be considered for anything after an event, right? So it's
Yeah.
like that's why the wedding reception, it's the after, right? The funeral reception. I
I
think that
feel
still
like
is
though, I
applicable.
feel like when I like this may be a Southern thing,
Hmm.
but that the after the funeral thing is called the receiving.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I've heard more like wake,
That's before the
memorial,
funeral,
right?
though, because you're waiting for the body to wake up, maybe.
Is that why it's called that?
Yeah, dude.
Is that a for real thing?
I maybe that's what I've always believed in my heart. No one ever told me that, but I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. Because before, back in the day, they didn't know that's why they had those safety coffins and shit.
Yeah, I mean
So you're sitting around and being like, are they gonna wake up? I don't think so. They're starting to smell. Put them in the dirt.
that's probably true, but I mean, at a certain point, embalming became popular around the Civil
Right.
War.
Yeah, you're not waiting for anyone to wake up these days. Not many survivals of the embalming practice.
I don't know why, but in my mind, I thought wake was always um, like the wake of grief, like the wave of grief, right? Like,
That's
like a
much
tide.
more poetic and romantic.
I
Then
like that's what I always
written.
thought. I don't know. Like, if someone could email us or post and let us know, right?
Yeah, please
Like,
tell us what
maybe we
wake
just ask
means
that.
to you.
Right? Let's ask that on the Instagram or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anywho, do you know what time it is?
I think I do know what time it is, but could you tell me? Because
It's
the time to
time.
motherfucker director.
I'm so sorry for anyone listening with headphones or just
I'm not.
or
Fuck you. You should know by now.
That was awful. I'm Megan, and that's Hannah. And
Hi,
yeah,
I'm Hannah.
it's Tin Hat time, and we are going to be talking about spiritualism in
Ooh.
very broad strokes. We're gonna
Broad
cover
stroke spiritualism.
just
Excellent.
just it's we'll call it like lazy man spiritualism.
Okay.
Is what I'm
Dude,
gonna
every
go
time
with.
something creepy or like spiritual or whatever gets mentioned, like a weird sound happens in my house.
Do you just see the Indiana Jones in the background of you and just go,
No.
oh shit?
No. Somebody was walking down the hallway, but I wasn't expecting it. That's all.
Or was someone? Maybe
No, they were.
it was the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. I don't know.
Why would he be in Idaho?
That was a great point. I'm so sorry. I
That
should have.
was charming. Oh, enchanté, mademoiselle. Oh,
I thought the ice cube was smaller, but anywho.
fuck that ice, boo.
Anywho, moving on, talking about spiritualism. No, Abraham Lincoln actually comes up a couple times. So yay, it's fun.
Cool.
It's fun. So spiritualism, I'm gonna read a couple things this episode because I am lazy.
No, you've done your research and you have sources to quote.
I mean, technically they're block quotes, so they wouldn't be accepted, in college. But anywho,
Whatever. I didn't go to college, so.
According to an article by the BBC, some of the main beliefs of spiritualism, right? There's 4 main beliefs. 1, souls survive bodily death and live in a spirit world. Spiritualists say that every human soul survives the death of the body and enters a spirit world that surrounds and interpenetrates the material world. 2,
Hot.
these souls can communicate with the material world. Spiritualists say that communication is possible between the material world and the spirit world under the right conditions, usually with a medium. Number 3, spirit beings are little changed from their earlier selves. Spiritualists say that those in the spirit world are much the same that they were in the material world, although without any physical deficiencies. So basically, you're you, but you're not disabled or anything or old, whatever.
You're like you.
Yeah, you're like your best version. Sort of. And then number 4, spirit beings are interested in people in the material world. Spiritualists say that those in the spirit world are aware of and interested in the lives of those they have temporarily left behind in the material world. So basically, it's one of those spirits are real. We believe in them. It's like believing in like spirit guides and those sorts of things. I think it's gotten pretty popular in recent years in like the new age sort of movement of believing in spirits, believing in spirit guides, all that. But basically what spiritualists believe is that when you die, you go to the spirit realm and you're there and you're your same self. Some people believe in reincarnation, but in the original type of spiritualism, reincarnation was not really an aspect of it. There's specific branches that believe it, but yeah.
For what we're talking about today, after you die, you become a spirit who's basically you.
Yes.
But like not all fucked up or whatever.
Yes.
And you're intrigued by what the people that you left behind are doing and you want to be like involved.
Yeah, basically grandma dies, she's still nosy and wants to be in your business.
Oh my God.
Right? That is sort of the essential belief. And it kind of makes sense, right? So the spiritualism movement is originally attributed to like late 1700s, a dude named Emanuel Swedenborg, who wrote the Heavenly Doctrine. And he was a well-known, I don't know, everybody's sort of called like a scientist or like a professor back then, but like the accreditation, I mean, is a little loose. But he was like a philosopher, basically. he's devoted a lot of his time to reading the Bible and going through each verse and trying to spiritually interpret it correctly. And basically, I don't know, he studied it pretty religiously. He takes a
He studied the Bible religiously.
Yeah, right. He takes a sharp left turn though in his doctrine. Excellent. When he claims that the second coming of Christ will not be like a physical second coming of Christ.
Is it going to be all over his face?
But it'll be through him, because basically Jesus will drop the knowledge directly in his dome and he'll be able to spread it all around. So basically he's going to get the download of, you know, the second coming, and he'll be able to basically be the new prophet. So very original concept. Nobody has ever done that.
I'm literally watching a docu-series on the family cult in Australia right now, and like homegirl who's in charge of that was just like, I'm Jesus.
Yeah, that seems to
I'm gonna
be
steal babies and be Jesus.
I mean, but like, to be fair, right, like there's like a whole saying, and I don't know who originally said it, but that cults plus time equal religion, right?
Yeah,
because I mean, religion does all the same shit.
Well, Christianity started off as a offshoot of Judaism as a cult.
Yeah, and Judaism started as an offshoot cult from the Canaanite religion. So like everything is always an offshoot, right? Mm-hmm. So it just kind of is like this domino effect of like, I am the new God, sort of a thing. But yeah, so he's largely attributed to kind of like the main ideas. Like he wrote about it, and then it kind of basically caught speed. It got really popular in like the 1820s, was when it really started to pick up pace. And then there was some frauds around the 1850s, 40s, 50s. But people really kind of picked it back up in the 1860s. Shocker, because of the Civil War.
I was just about to ask if it got popular in America.
Yeah, so it so while, you know, what's his face was I think he was English, French, I can't remember. I don't know if I put it in my notes.
Homeboy you were just talking about?
Yeah, Emmanuel. I can't remember. I think it was like Swedish or something. And I might just be saying that.
That's his last name.
Swedenborg. But no, so some people, you know, really claim that the movement started in the US. There's another branch of it that is not spiritualism. It's like spiritualist. It's like something slightly different, but it's basically a branch of spiritualism. And that kind of gets some of the main hype. Anywho, so 1860s picks up a lot of speed because of the Civil War.
Right.
And because, I mean, obviously there's like 700,000 plus deaths in the Civil War. So that is also when embalming became like a regular practice. Before that was not a thing.
Well, that was how you would get somebody home to be able to be buried.
Yeah, exactly. So, but also because of, I mean, the immense amount of, you know, grieving, and that's a lot of susceptible widows, especially. That was kind of a continual running theme. And so during and kind of right at the start of the Civil War, what became really popular was the practice of getting your portrait taken, you know, before you kind of went off to war. Yes. So basically, you know, there's those little bits of, you know, they're called like cartes de vista. I don't know, but they were basically a popular photograph that was like put on a really small, thick piece of paper, like trading cards almost.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look up pictures from that time period, you're gonna see them come up. But there was a guy during that time period who got a fuck ton of publicity because William Mumler could capture spirits in photograph, right?
Yeah.
So you would come in for your portrait, and when it would develop, your loved one would be there in the photo, whether they were standing behind you or, you know, somewhere in the front of you, right? They were somewhere in the photo. And so he got, I mean, really
How the
fucking popular.
fuck did he pull that off?
I will get to that. I mean, wait, you don't think he's real? He
No.
was completely a genuine person. So he charged $5 to $10 per photo. So I
In
needed,
1880s money or 1860s money, that's like
that's what,
thousands of dollars.
I mean, I think it's probably more the equivalent of like 100 to 200, maybe.
No, I think it's got to be more than that.
Here, let's look. Let's just take
I'll look that up while you
Okay.
tell me the stories.
Okay, yeah, because I would be very curious to know. But so he charged a fuck ton of money, right, for each photo. He was massively successful. There's a couple different stories of him just literally straight up fooling experts, right? Like expert photographers who are like, oh, take my photo and now let's go through the whole process of developing it. And like this dude, you know, who went along with him was like, oh shit, I have no fucking idea how he's doing it. And he did this to quite a few different people. I don't know how he tricked them. That kind of isn't really discussed, but he did. Fun fact though, he took the last known photo of Mary Todd, right? Abraham Lincoln's wife.
Oh shit.
And so
okay, hang on one second.
Yeah.
You were closer to correct.
Okay. I mean,
hang on.
How much was it? Did you just do a converter?
Yeah, $10 in 1865, which is just the year I used, is $169.69 today.
Yeah, that's a perfect amount.
169.69, dudes.
I mean, it would be better if it was like, you know, 4,200
or 420 or something like that.
420.69, right? Like one of those.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Wow, so
or if it was 666, that'd be even better.
Yeah. Or what is it? 80085.
Yep. Or
that's boobs.
800 or like 8008135 boobies.
Yeah, boobies. Yeah. I could only fit ever like boobs, but anywho, moving on. So he takes the last photo of Mary Todd as well. And so if you look it up, we'll post it to our Instagram, a photo where it's straight up Mary Todd sitting there and like Abraham Lincoln just like standing up, hands on her shoulders. And it looks legit. It looks like a little ghosty guy of Abraham chilling there. But
Mary Todd was hella into that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously
like,
she went to him. He was well known. So it's like not like she didn't like she knew what she was getting.
Oh yeah, no, but she was like also like hella into the spiritualism thing because like they had like a child die.
Yeah, I think they had like three. I think they had like three kids die. They had four kids total, and I think only one survived. So but anywho, right? So moving on, his story kind of gets even funnier, right? So eventually someone was like, yo, you're a fraud. And so he goes to trial. Who did he piss off? None other than P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum was like,
really?
I know, it's like so fucking ironic, dude, that P.T.
Barnum, the greatest showman.
Yeah, was like, fuck this guy. Like, so
figure it out first.
Probably, like, for real. Like, P.T. Barnum was an asshole.
No, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah, like he was
an utter piece of shit, like to the point that I won't see The Greatest Showman, no matter how good those songs sound, because it's just a bunch of more of the white man's lies.
I mean, I saw it, and honestly, I thought it was kind of boring, but
you don't like musicals.
I like some. It just has to be the right musical.
Like, you loved Rocky. You loved Rocky Horror.
I like Rocky Horror. There's others. I can't think of any of them right now, but
did you like Hamilton?
I couldn't get through it. I couldn't get through it. I am a history major and I was bored. Like I couldn't. I think mostly because I don't know, Hamilton was also just, I mean, anyone from history is usually kind of an asshole. So
yeah.
But anywho,
they're not pretending he's not an asshole in that show.
Anywho, moving forward. P.T. Barnum is like, fuck William Mumler. William Mumler's a fraud. So they go to trial, and I mean, this is
which is kind of the pot calling the kettle black.
It totally is. It totally is. So what really set P.T. Barnum off is he went to Mumler to get a portrait taken. And when his photo was taken, the ghost of Abraham Lincoln was behind him. So like really what it comes down to is Mumler went a little too big, right? Like it's P.T. Barnum and you're going to go with, oh, the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is behind P.T. Barnum. Like, how is that? How is that connected? Like, were they tight? I don't think so. Like, they seem pretty opposite figures in history. But so that's really what set him off. So he like literally like testified in a trial. Mumler was acquitted. You know, that's basically the end of anything interesting with his story. But how did he do it?
About that court,
right?
I want to read how he got acquitted, and then I want to write a musical about it.
Honestly, that would be pretty fun,
right?
But how did he do it? So in an article from the Atlantic, they talk about it, right? So during the Civil War, as families endured separations, both lengthy and permanent, keepsake photos became popular, with thousands of portraits produced. One of the most popular forms of these were the cartes de visite. I can't say that because it is in French. Photographs which were mounted on small, thick pieces of paper, trading cards, essentially. So Mumler used the photos on those cards along with similar photographs to create his ghosts. He used the visages of famous figures, as in the case of Barnum's Lincoln portrait, to create the illusion of communion with notability. He used images of non-famous people to create the illusion of disembodied intimacy. So basically, he exploited people and kind of the memory, like your memory starts to fade after a while, right? People didn't have social media to just pull up, right? You maybe had one picture of your loved one, maybe. So it's one of those things where you remember their face, but like in a photo in the 1800s, they're a little blurry. So
for sure. Like there's, well, like it's the same thing with like with people that like, you know, you went to high school with, you're not like, it's like, what's that? You know, what did they actually look like? You don't really remember.
And especially because, you know, these ghosts show up to be transparent, slightly blurred, right? And some of that is intentional, right? I mean, obviously to create the illusion of ghosts, right? They're supposed to be somewhat transparent.
My sock. I'll be right back.
But you know, the slightly blurred stuff, I mean, it's to the benefit, right? It really is to exploit people kind of in their moment of vulnerability. And you know, post Civil War was, you know, a really good opportunity for that. So I mean, he made a fuck ton of money, right? You got to think about, you know, how many of those he was doing a day, you know, $5 to $10 a pop, like and
that's $170 a pop now.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, so he basically had his own OnlyFans, but you know, for family ghosty portraits.
That's Yep.
Yeah. So he was a pretty interesting
character. That's
Mumler. So William Mumler. Yeah, Mumler.
That's a shitty last name.
Yeah.
It's a last name that's meant to be missaid. It may as well be Mumbler.
Yeah. What did you say? Did you mumble? Yeah.
It's Mumler.
Yeah.
But he sounds like he was a kind of a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a shitty person.
I think that the spiritualist world is littered with hucksters and conmen and flim-flam artists and that kind of stuff, with like an occasional pocket of something came through.
Yeah, honestly, in my light research of this topic, I would have to say that I didn't come across anything that was like really well known that was like, wow, this is legit.
No,
everything
I don't think
is always cases of fraud.
Legit.
Yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of this was really exploiting people in this time period. I think that, you know, if it is something that, someone believes in, I don't think that people are using any talents they would have like that for personal profit.
No,
I really don't.
I've always thought that. Like, I believe that there are psychics in the world. I believe that there are people who have like a little bit like, not to sound like a total douche rag or whatever, but like I've had a few little spiritual moments. Blah.
Mhm.
But like, I think exactly like what you just said. Nobody who actually has those gifts, nobody who could actually do that kind of shit is doing it for a profit.
Yeah. So, unless it's like, every TV show trope, which is like, I feel like it's always like a medium who is a real medium, but just pretends to be a medium. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
That's been on
that
a bunch
sort
of
of,
shows.
right? Where it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. It's like they are still conning people, but somehow they're still legit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anywho, all right, moving.
Psych, kind of.
Yes. Yeah, sort of, but like they're really
He knew
psychic.
he was yeah, his whole thing was like he was just
he was definitely just conning people. But
Bunch of-
on sort of the opposite note, right, on the skeptic side of the spiritualist movement, someone who is extremely well known, obviously, Harry Houdini, right?
Yes.
Harry Houdini was obviously a very famous illusionist, right? Could escape straitjackets, hung upside down, strung up from a 3-4 story building, whatever. Baller, really good at illusions.
He was kind of the Steve Irwin of his day.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
In that it's like, how the fuck did that take him out?
It could also be that Houdini was like fucking yoked. Like, I don't know if you have seen like.
Oh no, I've seen some pictures of Harry Houdini.
I'll find like there's a colorized one of him like in his little swimsuit as he's like getting ready to do his little thing. But I swear to God, he's like fucking flexing his legs and they're just very muscular. They were just ripped. He
did not skip leg day. That's how you get out of the straitjacket.
Those Hungarians, they're just very strong.
Oof, they are.
Yes, sexualizing someone who died 100 years ago.
Right. Well, it's maybe it's kind of like Take Back the Night.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so Harry Houdini, obviously, sort of in the industry, I guess you would say, of like entertainment. If you lump spiritualism into that, this dude fucking wanted to believe. He wanted to believe spiritualism
so hard
was legit. Like, this dude like tried so hard to research everything. He said, he read everything that was basically possible to read, to basically try to figure out if it was legit. So I'll read you actually his own words about spiritualism.
Excellent. I'm still listening, but I have to take my sock off now.
No, it's okay. So this is gonna be a long quote too. This is like a paragraph. So
perfect. So, my boot stuck.
I have spent a goodly part of my life in study and research. During the last 30 years, I've read every single piece of literature on the subject of spiritualism that I could. I have accumulated one of the largest libraries in the world on psychic phenomena, spiritualism, magic, witchcraft, demonology, evil spirits, etc.
I want to be in that library right now.
I know, right? For real. Some of the material going back as far as 1489. And I doubt if anyone in the world has so complete a library on modern spiritualism, but I have ever concerning the so-called spiritualist phenomenon has impressed me as being genuine. It is true that some of the things I have read seemed mystifying, but I question if they would be hang on, sorry. This is just also an 18 or 1920s talk. It's true that some of the things I've read seem mystifying, but I question if they would be, were they to be reproduced under different circumstances, under test conditions, and before expert mystifiers and open-minded committees. Mine has not been an investigation of a few days or weeks or months, but one that has extended over 30 years. And in that 30 years, I have not found one instant that savored of the genuine. If there had been any real unalloyed that a word?
I mean,
Unalloyed demonstration to work on, one that does not reek of fraud, one that
I would say that with like alloyed is like, like since it's things that are mixed together, like maybe he means like muddled, maybe it was more common.
I think it's just, saying of the time.
Yeah.
If there had been any real unalloyed demonstration to work on, one that did not reek of fraud, one that could not be reproduced by earthly powers, then there would be something for a foundation. But up to the present time, which everything that I have investigated has been the result of deluded brains or those who were too actively or intensively willing to believe. The end. Yeah. So he was just
a lot of fancy speak for this is bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he has another quote like straight up on spirits to say, I do not believe in spirits or ghosts, end quote. Like, that's it. Like, he wanted it to be fucking real. And I mean, I think that's, to be honest.
Does that make him the Mulder or the Scully? I never really X-filed and I need to.
I don't know. I never really X-filed either. I watched, I don't know, I guess different shows. I think that was a little bit too old for me.
I think me too, and I think that my parents watched it, and I think that they decided that it was too scary for us.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think my dad watched it, but I don't know. I don't know. Anywho,
he's the Mulder.
Sure, let's go with that. No, he's definitely very much a skeptic, but I would say that I think that's how a lot of people kind of get started on just general like deconstruction of their own beliefs, right? Like you want to believe something so bad and you're like, oh, let me find all this information to validate it. Like, I would say that is for me, like kind of where I'm at with, Christianity, right? Like, I want to believe it so bad. I want to believe it. But the more I look into it with historical context and all of that, it's kind of like, damn, homie, like, I wish this was real. But I don't think that it is. Anywho, sorry to rain on anyone's parade.
No, it's
but anywho, so Houdini, right, very successful, lives his life, baller, shot caller. So after Houdini died, right, in 1926, because he was so hardcore into spiritualism, he and his wife Bess had an agreement that she would hold a seance, basically, and if he said this certain like code word to her that basically it was legit, spiritualism was real, ghosts were real, all that shit. Well, she held a seance on the anniversary of his death for 10 years, like every year for 10 years. Basically after a decade, she's like, I gotta move on, right? There's cobwebs down below, so gotta find a new man. Dick. Yeah. But anywho, it actually ended up being continued. So there's a guy named Sid Radner who was like #1 Houdini fan, and he actually ended up continuing doing the seance.
Has he ever contacted
the 30s? He said that he's had like encounters, but it's never been with Houdini, right? Like they thought, but nope, still nothing since the 30s, bro. Like,
I feel like he's, not gonna reach out, probably.
Yeah, no,
maybe that's not how it works.
Yeah, and I mean, the article that I'm reading that from too is like 10 years old. So
no, that's a popular story. I knew that one. Like,
yeah, I think it's one thing that like I think it always surfaces around Halloween because people bring it up and say that it's Halloween. I don't think Houdini died on Halloween, though.
I was actually just going to say, I thought it was on Halloween that she did it.
Nope, it's on the anniversary of his death. So, yep.
I don't,
which kind of makes more sense, right? Like, I think it makes more sense in terms of like, if you, sort of leave the realm, right? Wouldn't that be when the door would open back up again, sort of a thing?
Yeah, well, you think it would be at Samhain when the veil is thinnest.
Yeah, I don't know. So, unless he died on Halloween, but yeah, the article I read said anniversary of his death.
Watch him have died on Halloween, and we're just like dipshits with a podcast, and we're just like, oh no, right here, Houdini died. We have the whole fucking world of information right here, these little bricks, but we don't know.
Yeah, but spiritualism, I think, I don't know, it's an interesting thing, but yeah, a lot of frauds, like, I looked up a lot of stuff on it, and all of the popular people by the second article right, on any said person, it would be like, yeah, and you know, they were known for being frauds, basically. Like,
Yeah, like the Fox sisters.
yeah.
The one could crack her toe or something like under the table real loud.
Yeah.
So like they didn't need to use the bells and whistle kind of a thing, so they'd make the knocking happen when she was cracking her foot.
Yeah.
Which that's horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. The thing that I read about her that was kind of interesting, or whichever one, right? They were both known for like the knocking and cracking, right? So they would like knock and tap and shit. But I guess when they were popular, the Morse code had been developed only a couple years before that. And so like they basically were like, oh, we can do like, you know, telegraph to the spirit world, and the spirit world like sends us a telegraph. So that's sort of like the idea of like why they did the knocks.
Oh, cool.
Was because of Morse code. Like they were basically bullshitting Morse code on top. So I don't know if they knew Morse code, but yeah, it was like the popular science. So one of the other things that, you know, was popular, or why spiritualism was so popularized, is because, you know, there was really no technical set doctrine for it, right? There was it was not like an organized religion. And in the early 1800s, science was really gaining a lot of traction as far as like, we should believe science, right? Like we should put more stock into this, maybe more so than religion. And so it was like kind of the idea of merging the two to be able to justify science.
Interesting.
Yeah. History is fun. So
yeah, it is.
I could bore anyone for days about this because history. So, but no, there's.
I don't think it's boring.
Yeah, good. I'm glad it wasn't like it, because a lot of it is just history. Like this one's really just like history.
I just think it's really interesting that this craze swept the world, really, and like it never really went away.
No, it still hasn't. There's actual chapters all over the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's still a lot of diehard spiritualists and people who really believe in that shit. Like I have friends who like spend money on psychics a lot.
I've wanted to, just to see if it was like good cold reading, but I also feel like in the age of social media, it's so easy to gather information on people.
I was just gonna say, have I ever told you about the time that I went to a psychic?
No.
So it was I was out in Boise actually, and one of my friends who's super into psychics, and like hashtag no shade, Monica, I feel like you guys have a relationship that I don't have. Yeah. But when we were in the Coast Guard together, she was always like, you should call my psychic. Like, I think that you should talk to them. And I was like, I don't want to. She's like, but my mom and my aunt and I.
Cheap therapist is sometimes what it ends up being. Really?
Sometimes. But like she and her mom and her auntie like all went to the same psychic. Like she would call this gal like up in Boston, like where like in Massachusetts and stuff. And like she would like, I really just think that you should get on the phone with her. Yeah. Like just talk with her for a bit. And I was like, no, she's like, I'll pay for it. And I'm like, okay.
Like I guess if you're gonna pay for it.
What happened when she was out here, she was like, I really need, like, oh gosh, my psychic, like I can't get to her right now. Like I need to go see somebody. Is there anyone in town? Like who's your psychic in town? And I was like, I don't know how to tell you that I don't regularly visit a psychic.
Yeah.
I don't know how you haven't gathered that with our many years of friendship. But we looked it up online and like found like a psychic with some good whatever in town. She was like, I'll obviously like, she's like, I know who you are. I know you're not like into this, whatever, you're wrong, but I'll pay for your session. Come on. Like you have to come with me. I was like, it's $10. So like, whatever, let's go get our fortunes told today. Hold hands, skipping down the street to Sheila's psychic shack.
Nice.
And I don't even remember my reading. It was like a bunch of platitudinal bullshit. I felt like even at the time I was being polite. Like I wasn't gonna like be an asshole. I was in there's like, oh, that is interesting. Oh, okay, neat. And Monica's like, oh my god, yes. And then what'll happen? Okay. Interesting. I shouldn't take that ferry that day then, probably. And then, like, while I was sitting there, I had a very genuine moment of feeling my great grandmother's spirit, like, in my voice, going, "What are you doing in the house of this witch and this devil worship place? You need to get," like, and it's just like, "This is the devil, Hannah Jane, and you ought not be in here." I'm like, I just heard it clear as a bell in Fannie Mae's voice, and it was so funny that I started laughing really hard during Monica's reading. And she was like, "What is so funny?" I was like, "I'm sorry. Do you want me to share? Because I had something from the other side." And they were like, share. I was like, "My great grand thinks that this is bullshit and that you should get your money back." I don't know what to tell you. Psychic Sheila was not impressed.
Oh,
Monica
shit.
was.
Oh, Monica's like, "Oh, Hannah, I'm gonna have to go to you now for all my psychic
She
advice."
tried, like, there were like sometimes where I was like, I've like had like intuition and things before. And that was like when I was like 19. She was like, "Oh, so you can do readings?" And I was like, "No, bitch. No."
I would have responded with, "Yes, and they cost."
Well, that was fresh off of the Ouija board incident at my mom's backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, "No, I don't read shit off of shit." Because, like, as much as I don't believe in, like, the spiritualist movement and, like, people who advertise themselves as psychic, I'm not gonna, like, shit on anybody who goes and sees it. We all have our things that we do. I do really stupid stuff, too. But, like, if it makes you happy, if it brings you joy, if you like it, go talk to your psychic. Have a great time with it. Fucking bring me along, too. I'll have fun. I'm just not gonna make fun of you to your face, just quietly in my head.
I saw a thing, of course, on TikTok a while ago that was talking about like witchcraft and all that, and like the practice of it, and that if you believe in it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Like, you can still practice it in a way because it's sort of self-care, right? So let's say you do spell work and you write down your intentions for the year or whatever. You can view it as spell work, but you could also view it as just self-care and checking in with yourself, and like I'm setting my intentions for what I want to do, and it's kind of like your own therapy.
It's secular witchcraft.
Yeah, you could definitely view it that way.
Absolutely.
So I think it's interesting, but also like all of Christianity is witchcraft, like really when you think about it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's like,
but they deny it. Like, I think it's so funny, like the witch trials.
Where do you think you guys get your Christmas trees from?
Well, no, not even that, but like
explain ritual, Easter,
right? I think I just think like everyday ritual, right? Like going to specifically like a Catholic service. Catholics, dude, are super witchy, bro. Like without
I fucking know, dude.
But I don't know. We're talking about it for the pod, bro.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot we're not. I was like, you're preaching to the Episcopalian choir over here. I was raised by a Catholic. I'm aware that they're witches for Jesus.
Well, but no, I think in like the popular view, right, of like they're not into the witchcraft shit, right? Like you're talking about,
no, witches are bad, should be burned,
right? Like going to a psychic and like, this is witchcraft, demons, whatever. But when you think about just the ritual of taking communion, that's metal as shit, right?
Especially if you're Catholic and you believe in transubstantiation.
Yeah, and you're like, this is the actual body. This is the actual blood. It's like, that's blood. Cannibalism.
I remember thinking that when I was a kid, and like there was like, we were like the Episcopalian kids, and then there was like a family of Catholic kids, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we have to do confirmation and all this shit and blah blah blah." And I was like, they just gave me a cracker with wine on it.
Yeah, it's delicious.
It's pretty dope. Yeah. And then the Baptist like, "You drank in church?" And I was like, yeah. Inside the church for Jesus.
I also didn't know you're like, well, until I did it, I think probably more than once. I was probably hungry on Sundays, but you're not supposed to take communion if you're like not part of the club. And nobody fucking told me. I didn't fucking know. I did it at Catholic church, but basically, I think if anything, like that just kind of goes to show like this sort of magic element, right? Of like, if you're like, not,
you have to be initiated into it. You have to have like passed certain levels and stuff.
Exactly. Like that's fucking witchcraft, bro. Like that. For sure. That in and of itself, like that, the fact that you're not a part of the coven, basically, to be able to take, to do the ritual with the coven, like it's interesting. It's very interesting. So
Yeah.
spiritualism
Spiritualism is fucking fascinating.
Mhm.
But I just, because like I think that some of the tools they use, like Ouija boards and that kind of stuff, can be used to contact elementals and
Yeah.
like spirits from the other side, but you never know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Nobody has enough control over that shit. And like we've said this whole episode, anyone who's doing it for commercial gain is a huckster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'd say
So,
so. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. So yeah, spiritualism, what a fun topic.
Right?
Some interesting, very recent roots, I would argue. So
That is interesting about it, is that it
very
feels
recent.
kind of like old timey or whatever, but like in the actual like history of humanity, that didn't start that long ago.
No, it's like
Like
roughly
300
the same
years ago or
time as
something?
like no, like 18, 20. Well, I guess if you take the 1700s guy, yeah. But
That's
like
what I was doing.
when did Mormonism start?
1840s.
So this started around the same time. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
1820s. 1820s was when Mormonism started. So like this is roughly the same time period. Right? What?
I said, don't tell Evan I said the wrong date.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, right. Because he'd be able to correct you. So, but like that's the thing, right? If you kind of take into account, right, spiritualism, Mormonism all started around the same time, right? This is when basically in America they were vying for a new religious movement.
Yeah.
So, and spiritualism took kind of the reins.
Well, there were other things that took off at that time too, like Seventh-day Adventists, evangelicals, that kind of thing. So yeah, you're not wrong. This was a time of like deep turmoil in the country, and people were. It's interesting that like in this modern day, like present day, it's another time of deep turmoil in our country. And what are people doing but like turning to a new religious movement or a new spiritual movement? A lot of people are going pagan, going Wiccan, you know, new age, if you will, like, or returning to old ways, kind of a thing. Some people are being real twats about it, but sometimes it's, you know,
every time there's turmoil, you see this repeatedly. This happened in the 90s, like the new age shit got a real big movement in the 90s, but you have to think about the Cold War ended in the 90s, right? And so that was kind of the big transition. But also America as a whole was founded literally on religious, like, or by religious extremists, right? Like colonies were about having Christian religious freedoms, right? Like Calvinists and all that. They were like just hardcore. And England was like, you guys are kind of seeming culty, kind of get the fuck out. And so like that's how we found it. So like the idea
You're
that
creeping us all out, you pilgrims.
Yeah, the idea that cults or like any new religion really is able to take off in America is pretty fucking normal, honestly. Unfortunately, like that is how our culture started, and that's how it's kind of been continued. So
well, the culture of America is a very young country as a colonized country. You know, it's a very young country, and it's a lot of radical ideas and a lot of like that kind of stuff. It's very different from the old world.
I would say radicalized is a really great way to put it, right? Everything in America is very radical, right? Radical. But like radical.
No, but it is the radical ideas, radicalization, like you get the extremes here that like you get in pockets other places, but it seems to be kind of more mainstream. So it makes sense that like spiritualism picked up, and you know, like especially in the time when it did, and then like it had resurgences during World War II, which makes a ton of sense. You know,
it's interesting.
It's having resurgences now.
It definitely is, right? It's definitely like there's modern spiritualism now, like there's official churches and all of that are in spiritualism. So
yeah, it's fucking fascinating. I like this good fun little broad strokes episode, so we have something to guide people back to, and we can just kind of like dive into episodes on the future, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Sorry, I just had to quietly I don't know what that was.
Just cough up a lung real quick.
It was entirely involuntary. If you can't tell, I sound like a proper Muppet. I'm coming off a chest cold. I got the COVID test, so we're all good to go. But you can't catch it through a podcast. Probably.
How did your boobs get sick?
What?
How did your boobs get sick?
Fuck you, dude. You know
it's a chest cold. Okay, and then that will end. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah.
Please subscribe. Leave us a good review, please.
Where can you find us? You can find us on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. You can find us on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Absolutely.
Spotify, yeah. Spotify and Apple is our two top ones. So
you can watch our beautiful faces on YouTube if you want to. If you want to stare into Megan's soulful gray eyes that look like the Pacific Ocean after a storm, that would be great. Or mine that are so dark, they just like weird beetle black eyes, like a doll's eyes on this. And you can watch us on YouTube. And then,
yeah, you can watch Hannah hunt for a sock and me spit an ice cube back out into my cup.
It was great.
Anywho, if you have any cool stories, please slide into our DMs on Instagram. Hannah checks those regularly. Or send us an email at tinhattimepodcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Good talking to you, bitches.
Adios.
Bye-bye.